Welcome back to another snapshot video looking at something a little different for the channel. Today we look at a popular game that I accidentally have about 500 hours in. It's Path of Exile. If you've never played the game or know the genre, PoE is an ARPG, so think Diablo 3, though immediately unthink that, as it's more commonly thought to be a much closer in style to Diablo 2. But yes, it's an action role-playing game. Simply put, I think I'm on pretty decent ground here when I say that Path of Exile is arguably one of the greatest games ever, and is certainly one of the best free-to-play titles ever created. It's made by a company called Grinding Gear Games, who are based in Auckland, New Zealand, and just looking at the company name should give you a clue to the sort of gameplay their sole title will provide. They do just have one title, though when you learn about the pace of development, the 4 sizable updates released every year, you can well imagine that they're kept rather busy. Path of Exile has a reputation for being a game that's pretty off-putting and overwhelming for new players, and I'd have to say that honestly, it's kind of deserved. This is clearly a game made by people who love the complexity and layered mechanics that these ARPGs lend themselves to, and have made a game that they themselves would like to play. Perhaps the most famous aspect of this is the so-called passive tree. This sprawling mass represents the passive attributes your character will have. You get a point in this tree every time you level up or as a reward for doing quests during these story acts. It's not just that tree though, there are layers of other complexities that spring from the gems that give you the active skills. Those are the things your character will actually do, like cast spells or swing swords or whatever. Plus other avenues of side activities that have been added over the years to present the new player with a somewhat bewildering array of options. It's for this reason that I and other people strongly recommend that following a build guide is a good idea. Not just for new players either, but even people who interact with Path of Exile more casually. It can be an extremely helpful compass to guide you through the game. You may feel like that sounds defeatist, somehow the character won't be yours if you're following a guide made by someone else. I sort of felt that way when I first played, but the experience of doing so didn't undermine my enjoyment or dissuade me from following guides from then onwards. And just a quick interlude to say, please do leave a thumb in the general direction of your enjoyment from this video. It really does help me out. Thank you. I'd recommend installing a free community-made tool called Path of Building. It's a very common program that people not only use to plan, but also theory craft their builds. But via pastebin links is also a common way to share those builds between people. Creators could even set up progressive variation showing you what levels you should be going for what nodes on that big passive tree. For builds, especially if you're new, I'd look at ZiggyD's YouTube channel. His stuff is well made and he's a likable guy, which helps. Also, Zizaran plays builds that are popular too. He races PoE and seemingly plays the game for more than 24 hours every day. Both those guys also stream and have chats that are friendly to new players. I'll link both their YouTube and their Twitch channels in the description below. So even if you're new, you've seen a bit of gameplay now, you know roughly what's going on, killing the bad things, picking up the loot, and moving onwards. There's a 10-act story to play through, and a thorough and sizable endgame to play as well, complete with goals and further bosses to tackle, though I'll not spoil the storyline for what that endgame actually is by showing you footage. There's varied gameplay intensity on offer too. It can supply that sort of end of a busy day, MMO style, zero brain, music on, chill out while you zone out sort of activity. But also if you want big battles with mechanic heavy huge bosses, then Path of Exile has you covered for that too. It's also multiplayer, up to 5 people, but I'd say that a couple of people playing is probably the sweet spot for multiplayer. Most people play solo, only teaming up when they've synergized their builds to work together. Things can get a bit hectic in PoE when people start using movement skills to fly around the levels. Performance honestly isn't a worry. It'll max out your high refresh monitor and even run on your work laptop that you really shouldn't install PoE on if you want to get some work done. And as I said, the game is free to play, not pay to win at all. However, there are some quality of life things to buy that, if you enjoy the game, are a worthwhile investment. Stash tabs represent your global inventory, and for around $30 you can get some premium tabs and a currency tab. The premium tab's main purpose is that items placed in them can be seen by Path of Exile's trade API, meaning that if you find some great item that you can't use, you can try and sell it to another player. With the Premium tab, it takes literally a couple of seconds to set a price and then await people messaging you in-game to buy it. The other tab is Currency. This allows easy sorting of currency items that drop on the ground, now the basis of player trading. There's no gold in PoE, instead there are a number of crafting orbs that take that place. Prices are often listed as, for example, 5C, meaning 5 Chaos Orbs. A Currency tab basically sorts all your money so that you're not playing Tetris with it in a normal stash tab. However, while we're talking about money, it's probably best to also talk about my one complaint for Path of Exile, and that's how it treats cosmetic items. First of all, there are loot boxes. These, like every game, feel like a bad system, and something that the gaming industry should see the back of as soon as possible. Real money linked to RNG-based awards is not a good fit. Secondly, we have direct sale cosmetics and what's known as supporter packs. But I think first it's perhaps better to give some background on how Path of Exile came about. ZiggyD crowdfunded development using the supporter pack system at varying price points. The dev team were clearly fans of the ARPG genre. This resonated with people interested in backing the project. They wanted to help fund it and see that game made into reality. This model's been used before. Splash Damage did it with Dirty Bomb 2, and it helps studios without a publisher or venture capital funds make the game without having to go down those routes. For a group of people who feel like this title is not being made anywhere else and it resonates with them, it's clear to see why those people could decide to invest more than normal into a game in order to get it off the ground. In the case of Path of Exile, I believe the top amount possible was 1,000 New Zealand dollars. Present day, and those supporter packs still exist, and I'm presuming are still popular. As a company with no publisher and no big owner, you can imagine how people who love that sort of title and have disposable income would see them as a sort of plucky underdog in a gaming industry full of massive corporate entities and want them to survive and make the game they want on their terms. However, for me, the view on this changed slightly in 2018 when ZiggyD became a subsidiary of the Chinese multinational Tencent. If you don't know the name Tencent, then if you look on Wikipedia, they employ about 54,000 people worldwide and had net revenues in 2018 of over $11.5 billion US. So the store prices for cosmetics, which always for me, even while ZiggyD was self-owned, seemed far too high, now seem even more out of step with the company's new position. We're talking about $42 for a character armor set, and that's not all the pieces you'd need to fill every part of the cosmetic options for your character. What's more, as I said, supporter packs still exist today. They range in price from $30 to $480. I'd like to point out, though, that since ZiggyD became a subsidiary of Tencent, we've seen nothing to indicate that there's been a change in monetization or design decisions. It really does look like ZiggyD are still making all those decisions themselves. As for the loot boxes, well, I'd like to see ZiggyD pivot to something like a battle pass system, where every quarter they could charge $10 so that people could unlock a path to cosmetics and not have RNG be the basis of them. And as for store prices, it's a little bit more complicated, right? Because now there's a precedent set. People have handed over money for those. But honestly, I think they could cut everything by 50%, make a lot more sales, and still have some comparatively strong prices. I'm aware that there are some cosmetics unlockable through the League challenges too, but these for me don't represent the meat of what people want for their characters, and those are like the full armor sets. Now, I know I've been hard on them there, but I want you to know how much I do love this game, how much I want it to go from strength to strength, but also how much that price barrier has stopped me from putting more money into the game than I already have. I've bought loot boxes and felt buyer's remorse every single time, while the direct sales set options are almost a cost of a game in themselves. And like I said, I love this game. I didn't think I'd like this sort of title, and yet I've just checked, and yeah, I have 500 hours clocked in this game, and that's not much for fans of this game. It evaporates time like no title I've ever played before. I could stop playing and not quite know what time of day it is, or if I've eaten dinner or not. I love their 3-month cycles, their leagues as they're known, where they introduce new content, everyone makes new characters, it's a clean slate for new players and old alike. There's new stuff to play with, a new meta emerges, and a new economy to farm money and make your build even better. There's a great talk from CEO Chris Wilson at GDC a few years back, which is a real behind-the-curtains look at Path of Exile and how that success has been. Things that worked for them, things that didn't work, things that they thought would work but then didn't. It's a humorous and insightful window into grinding gear games. One of the points that stayed with me from that talk though is the idea that when people stop playing PoE, they still know when they're coming back. You may be busy with work when a new league happens, maybe it looks good and you wish you could play, but it's okay. You know it'll all reset in 3 months and you can jump back in then. Or perhaps you just burn yourself out from playing too many hours too early in the league. Or you know what? Take a few weeks break, there'll be new things next quarter. It's that steady, if intentionally unsustained relationship that people have with Path of Exile that somehow gives it its massive staying power. For a game released almost 6 years ago, it's still in its heyday. This isn't the long tail of a title, still just trying to maintain their player base. It keeps getting more and more popular. It's the reliable yet always fresh game that you can return to and re-experience again and again. And yeah, you can try it out for free, although do buy those stash tabs while they're on sale, which happens regularly. Have you tried Path of Exile? Do you like these kinds of games? Will you give PoE a try? Leave me a comment below right now with your thoughts and feelings. I'll be reading every single one of them. Thanks for watching. Please tap the old sub butteroni if you enjoyed the video and clack that bell icon while you try and remember why they introduced it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Take care.